What's going on, Summoners? Time for another ProGuides Wild Rift video. I'm Kangas, and today we got patch 2.2b once again bringing massive changes to Wild Rift. This patch brings us the long-awaited KHA'ZIX and Rengar updates alongside huge champion and system balances to bring a definitive shift to the Wild Rift meta. So hit that sub button and let's get right into it. On May 6th, the long-awaited Assassin Junglers will be joining the roster of Wild Rift. Rengar the Pride Stalker is a cat-like champion that excels in assassinating targets. Tia is gonna be thrilled. Utilizing his invisibility and his unique passive to jump out of bushes, the feline burst damage carry asserts jungle dominance, rivaled in both kit and lore by KHA'ZIX the Void Reaver. This bug-like creature evolved, developing both strength and intelligence to take down the strong. Similar to Rengar, KHA'ZIX ultimate grants him invisibility, allowing him to walk by unnoticed before jumping his targets. That's right, we're getting 2 invisibility champions, and we still don't have control wards. Lore-wise, these two have a fierce rivalry, sparked initially when KHA'ZIX slashed out Rengar's left eye. These two natural-born hunters now claim the savage background as their domain, each intent on making a trophy of the other. To celebrate Rengar and KHA'ZIX, the event, Masters of the Hunt, will begin on the same day of the release, May 6th. Depending on which team wins the event, Rengar or KHA'ZIX, different unique rewards will be available. So let us know which group you're backing in our Wild Rift community Discord through the link in the description down below. Accompanying these two champions will be a specific in-game mechanic, Nemesis Duel. Unique to Rengar and KHA'ZIX, this feature rewards the better jungler, granting the victor of the duel a unique incentive. To proc this event, both champions must be alive and be above level 13. Neither champion can have dealt or taken damage within 5 seconds and need to be at least 16 units apart. If Rengar wins, he automatically gains Ferocity during his ult Thrill of the Hunt, and if KHA'ZIX wins, he gains an extra evolution point. The feature is here to stay, continuing even once the event ends. And before we go into the champion changes, here's our question of the day. This patch brings a lot of changes, so let us know in the comments down below which balance updates you agree with and also disagree with. Some patches are without a doubt a little controversial, and there's always going to be a pretty big shift in the meta, especially with new champs releasing, so I want to know your thoughts. Next up, as usual, we'll be discussing the champion buffs, first starting off with Galio. Having received massive nerfs in patch 2.2a, this update serves to bring back some of his power. Galio's base health per level is being increased from 115 to 125, allowing him to scale into a tankier damage carry later on in the game. His passive, Colossal Smash's cooldown, is being decreased to 5, 4, and 3 seconds, reverting some of the previous nerfs. Additionally, Riot realized that his first ability was incredibly bugged, dealing far more damage from its initial burst than intended. So they're fixing that issue where it dealt its initial damage twice, but are increasing the percent health damage per AP ratio from 1.5 to 2%. And the next buff is to Leona the Radiant Dawn. According to Riot, Leona is being overshadowed by ranged supports. These changes are aimed at making her engage more reliable. Her base health regeneration is being increased from 7.5 to 9, alongside her passive damage, Sunlight, being increased from 25 to 137 to 33 to 145. Zenith Blade, her third ability's range, is also being increased from 7 to 7.5. Before this change, she was already pretty strong as one of the top picks in our support tier list, so it's blatantly clear that Riot simply wants Leona to be overpowered and played in practically every game. But buffering her trade potential in lane, Leona picks consistency should jump up, with more damage from her trades alongside reliability in engages, cementing her position in the meta. Many of the weaker AD carries have also received some strength increases in this patch, with Ashe up first. She still feels pretty weak despite the small minor buffs that she received in the past. In Riot's words, to help Ashe arrows go burr, they decreased the cooldown on her second ability Volley from 14, 11, 8, and 5 seconds to 13, 10, 7, and 4 seconds. Since Volley is the bow-wielding AD carry's only real poke skill, the very minor buff should grant her slightly more consistent damage output, but will unlikely make a heavy impact on her viability over other AD carries in the Wild Rift. And the next buff is to Tristana, who Riot has just been constantly tinkering with in the past few patches. This time around, they increased the damage to her explosive charge, now dealing 5, 10, 15, and 20 more damage than before at each level. Since Tristana relies heavily on her explosive charge to deal her base damage, this buff vastly increases her viability, granting her stronger follow-up damage alongside her scaling. Her ultimate Buster Shot damage also increased by 50 at each level. These buffs add finishing touches to the previous small tweaks to her kit, now effectively making her a strong and playable AD carry. Expect to see more of the rocket-wielding Yordle hopping around in your games. Varus is underperforming in the higher elo since his kit revolves around easily predictable skill shots that don't reward enough even when hitting his key abilities. To compensate, Varus's base mana is being increased from 345 to 390, allowing him to use skills more often, while his second ability, Blighted Quiver, deals more damage scaling with missing health. Blighted Quiver allows his other abilities to proc something called Blight, which deals bonus magic damage. This synergizes with the rest of his skill shots, increasing his execution damage and thereby improving his overall kit. The vengeful AD carry Vayne is also receiving some much needed attention. As a hyper late game carry, she plays exceptionally when stacking complete items, but definitely lacks the power to impact the early game. To compensate, her ultimate Final Hour is receiving a nice buff, granting her an additional 10 bonus AD per level, while decreasing the cooldown on the skin by an extra 10 seconds for each level. This buff allows Vayne to rely more on her ultimate during lane skirmishes, hopefully granting her both the necessary defensive and offensive capabilities to utilize on key moments during the early stages of the game. And the final AD carry receiving buffs this patch is Xayah. To be quite frank, she's already really powerful, and these changes should make her an even more consistent pick. Her second ability, Deadly Plumage, mana cost is being decreased from 60 to 50, and the cooldown is being decreased from 20, 18, 16, and 14 seconds to 19, 17, 15, and 13 seconds. In addition, her third ability, Blade Caller's root duration is being increased from 1 second to 1.25 seconds. Since there's a lack of AD ability haste options in the game, the buff to her second ability really allows her to spam it more often, while the increased root duration further incentivizes landing multiple feathers at once, a perfect aggressive tool for extending prior crowd control. Now onto the nerfs, both of the Noxian brothers are up on the list. Darius, who has become an overwhelming low elo destroying monster, is having his base stats decreased to allow for more punishing trades. His base health decreased from 650 to 610, and his base health regen decreased from 9 to 7. This means that if Darius chooses a poor engage, he'll have less sustain to recover from it. But do note that his damage numbers were untouched, so his base mechanics and DPS remain the same. He just simply has more exploitable weaknesses now. And now the players have become more and more comfortable with Draven's axe-catching shenanigans. Draven's spinning axe damage is being decreased by 10 at each level, allowing for his opponents to more realistically trade against him. Finally, after being on our overpowered tier list for so long, I got sick of talking about her, Evelynn is receiving a nerf. Her ultimate ability, Last Caress's cooldown is increased from 180 and 60 to 120, 95, and 70 seconds, which is honestly pretty substantial. A 20-second difference at level 1 upgrade means that she'll be way less safe and capable of pulling off less frequent zero-risk burst trades, creating a crack in her overpowered kit. Yeah, she still has invisibility that really doesn't have an outplay right now, which proves to be a problem over and over again, but with Rengar and KHA'ZIX soon to enter Wild Rift, it seems like this is simply the playstyle that Riot developers want to encourage. In addition, Katarina is also receiving a substantial nerf. She's been allowed to become rampant on Wild Rift for way too long, with some absurd burst damage numbers. Her passive Veracity allows her to pick up dropped daggers, dealing damage around her. This ability is being nerfed from 72 to 240 to the new 62 to 230 based on level, slightly diminishing her bursting capabilities. Shunpo, her third ability's dash range is decreased from 6.5 to 6, effectively limiting her windows of opportunity to engage and pull off those game-breaking nukes. These nerfs are much appreciated since playing against a masterful Katarina has been an oppressive experience in Wild Rift. I'm just worried that it's not going to be enough. The last nerf for patch 2.2b is for Ziggs, the Hexplosives expert. His first ability, Bouncing Bombs cooldown, is being increased from 6, 5.5, 5, and 4.5 seconds to 7, 6.5, 5.5, and 4.5 seconds. Essentially, this only impacts his early game, evening out the same cooldown when Bouncing Bomb is maxed out. And since the skill is Ziggs' main tool for wave clear and poke, other lane opponents should be able to fight for lane advantage without being completely pushed in by the bomb-wielding maniac. Some of these nerfed champions were actually discussed in depth in our best champions to solo carry, so check out that video for a more thorough analysis on Evelynn, Ziggs, and Katarina. So that concludes all the champion balances introduced by patch 2.2b, leading us into the next logical topic, system changes, starting off with items. Support items Ardent Censer and Harmonic Echo were nerfed, since apparently Enchanter supports are overperforming. Ardent Censer price was increased from 2,600 to 2,800 gold, with the combined cost increased from 650 to 850. This should normalize the cost of the item with the tank counterparts, preventing caster supports from reaching their Ardent power spike too early on, thereby just slowing their scaling. Harmonic Echo's base damage is decreasing from 16 to 30 to 16 to 25, and bonus damage HP ratio is decreasing from 1% to 0.8%. Honestly, this change is really confusing, since Harmonic Echo doesn't grant extra damage, but actually grants healing. We kinda think this is a misread on Riot's part, and the actual nerf being implemented is an additional gold increase for the item, now standing at 2,900 gold from the previous 2,800. Similar to the Ardent Censer's change, this slows down Enchanter support scaling significantly in the early stages of the game. Now moving on to the single rune change, Conqueror is once again being nerfed since ranged champions have been far too comfortably stacking the rune before heading into a big skirmish. The stack duration is being decreased from 8 to 6 seconds, hopefully leaving more room for other runes to see play. For more analysis on the runes in Wild Rift, check out our Ultimate Guide to Runes video here. Now to summoner spells, Barrier is also being nerfed again, since the summoner spell has been providing way too much safety regardless of specific matchups. The cooldown is being massively increased from 90 seconds to 120 seconds, drastically diminishing the frequency the players can spam the spell. Dragons are also receiving massive balance changes all across the board, with Infernal and Cloud Drake being noticeably more powerful than the other counterparts, Mountain and Ocean. These changes attempt to close the gap, hopefully making them all equivalently worth taking. Infernal Dragon bonus damage is being decreased from 8% to 6%, the Elder Infernal granting 9% instead of 12%. Additionally, the damage per stack of Elder Infernal has also been decreased from 4 to 3%. Since there's already so much damage in Wild Rift, these changes help keep the Infernal Dragon's objective priority in check. Cloud Dragon's move and speed bonus is decreased from 7.5 to 6%, and the Elder Cloud Dragon move and speed bonus is decreased from 11.25 to 9%. Additionally, the move and speed bonus per stack decreased from 3% to the previous 3.75. And that concludes the game-changing balance updates, transitioning us into new skins. Want to predict the weather? Well, Forecast Jana is making her debut. And who doesn't enjoy a robotic fish? Program Nami is also here. Two God Kings, Darius and Garen, have arrived to fight for dominance. And finally, Death Blossom KHA'ZIX and Night Hunter Rengar for those looking to purchase skins for the newly released champions. All skins will be released throughout the patch. And finally, here's our list of the free-to-play champs. Alright, that's it for the video. Thanks for watching, everybody. Be on the lookout for our future tier list, which will take into account these huge balance changes brought on the patch, helping players just like you further understand the meta. And if you enjoyed today's video, make sure to like and sub to the channel. We got tons of more content coming out. Also, check out our community Discord through the link in the description down below. But most importantly, as always, best of luck on the Rift, stay hydrated, and I'll see you next time.